Absolutely, Harsh. Morning. Let's take a look at the kind of global handover we are looking at and how our markets are expected to start off from here. To set up the context, before we've seen the oil tussle last evening, just taking it a little bit more behind, we've seen cuts coming in on Kospi where a circuit filter had to be put into place once again. Kospi's traded was halted momentarily yesterday because there was a rout in the chip stocks. That was expected to wash over to the nasdaq, and that's exactly what has happened. You've got some chip and AI stocks related stocks in the nasdaq that were under pressure. The other reason why the overall US equities are under pressure and why Asia has also opened under so much pressure this morning is, of course, once again ties seem to have severed between US and Iran because US claims that Iran has attacked 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. US said that is intolerable. To retaliate, US has struck Iran's key infrastructure projects, and on the back of that, US has also revoked Iran's license to and its authorization to sell its oil globally. On the back of that, we've seen a spike coming in oil prices. We'll get to that in a minute, but just taking a look at what the equity impact has been. Dow is lower by 2/10, S&P 500 lower by 0.5%. But yes, the Kospi impact as well as this negative news coming in on the geopolitical front has rubbed off much negatively on Nasdaq compared to the other two indices. The stock to watch out for in trade yesterday was Elon Musk's new listing that has made its way to the Nasdaq 100 in record time. That's SpaceX that we're talking about. Morgan Stanley in the US has also initiated an overweight rating on that stock with a target of $300 per share. So that's very positive for that stock. So that was one outlier in the US market. Shifting focus to the European markets then. And just taking a look at the overall stock 600 itself was lower by 0.6%. DAX under pressure by 1.4%. CAC saw cuts of about 0.5%. But you've got the FTSE, that's the FTSE that we are talking about, 0.1% uptick coming in on the FTSE right next to the DAX. So that is something that has held on to a shade of green. Let's talk about what the Asian Open this morning is looking like. Australia has opened with cuts of about 1%. Nikkei continues to be under pressure. Remember, at one time this index was positively above 72,000, has seen a very sharp correction from there. Another 0.7% lower for the Nikkei this morning. Hang Seng on the other side continues to do very well. It's a 1.7% uptick coming over there. Shanghai is slightly pressure. We are just getting word that China has been hit by a 5.0 magnitude earthquake. So maybe that could also have an impact on the Shanghai exchange. So we'll be watching out for that later in the day. While that's on the equity front, let's talk about commodities. All this back and forth between US and Iran once again has led to a spike up in Brent and WTI prices. Brent is higher by 2.6% and has now crossed $76 a barrel. You've got WTI oil that is also higher by 2.7% and is around 72.4. Those are the updated rates when it comes to Brent and WTI. Remember, late last night in our timing when this geopolitical escalation began once again, we saw a 5 to 5.5% spike on both of these indices. Slightly cooled off from there, but yes, continues to be around $76 per barrel for Brent. In terms of precious metals, we've seen a little bit of a cooling off coming in. Gold continues to be above 4,100, but 0.6% lower on that index. Silver is also lower by about 1.5%. 60.5 is where silver is at as we speak. While that's a handover coming in from equities and commodities, just also want to see what the US futures are up to. Not much negativity priced into the US futures right now. You've got Dow futures lower by 1/10, S&P futures flat, Nasdaq futures are nominally in the green. So at least that is what the trade setup is looking like for the US later in the day. Just taking a look at some of the important global comments that we've been tracking overnight. Most of it is from US and Iran officials. Let's start by talking about the US Central Command via social media platform X. They've said that the US Central Command forces have begun launching a series of powerful strikes against Iran to impose heavy costs for targeting and attacking commercial ships crewed by innocent civilians. The US strikes are in response to Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vehicles in the Strait of Hormuz like we were talking about. Iran's demonstrated aggression was unwarranted, dangerous and a clear violation of the ceasefire is what US is claiming. On the other side, you've also got comments coming in from Iran's deputy minister saying that US military actions against Iran violate the MOU. So both sides are of the view that the MOU between them and the ceasefire MOU has been violated, and Iran will be taking decisive actions to protect national interests. What we're understanding from the agency Axios is that Trump approved the Iran strike plan while he was still at the NATO summit in Turkey. This is just something that Axios has reported. And lastly, we've also got comments coming in from Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, who says that it is too early right now to say what is going to end up happening with Iran. And he and Trump have occasional agreements, but they see eye to eye when it comes to the bigger matters. So that sums up all the global equities, commodities and global comments that we've been tracking overnight. Back to you.